I'm realizing that this fight can be judged completely different depending on how you look at shots like this. Because technically, this right hand is partially blocked, but in like he's a bull, and Bivol's really trying to be the matador, but this bull has a lot of testosterone and he's not slowing down, and it's gonna get very scary very soon. Bivol dominates the second round, and he's building off of his reads in the first round. He was controlling the fight with his footwork, dictating when and where the fight took place, and he would cut off Beterbiev's attempts to take control with a sharp jab that was accurate and precise. It would halt Beterbiev's forward steps and attempted lead hand probes. This nullified most of Beterbiev's offense for the second round. And it was a clean 10-9 for Bivol, and I already broke down the first round, so go see that. And Bivol won that round as well, so it's 2-0. As always, it's a trade though. Not in this fight, sometimes it's trades, but it's always a trade. You gotta hit the like button for me, turn on the notification bell to be ready for the next part that we will release. Now, we can talk science. The primary thing that's given Beterbiev so much trouble in these early rounds is that Bivol is timing his forward steps. You see Beterbiev step forward, and then Bivol has something waiting there for him. So Bivol's constantly interrupting his rhythm, usually relative to the rhythm of his footwork. He touches him or he jabs him before he can get set. He did a similar thing to Canelo. Now, Beterbiev isn't finding too much success with single shots because the rhythm is predictable. But when he doubles up the jab, you see Bivol parry that first. When he doubles up the jab, oh, now he's starting to get somewhere when he's doubling up because the rhythm is offset. Now Beterbiev can make some headway. He can get Bivol moving, and he can start controlling when and where things take place. You see him pushing Bivol around the ring. That's going to be quite commonplace in this round. As we acknowledged in the first part, Bivol likes to counter the jab by stepping towards Beterbiev's right, which means he's getting away from the left hand of Beterbiev. But at the same time, as he's doing that, Beterbiev is trying to line him up. You see his face when he throws his punch. He's trying to hurt him. And we'll keep talking about the goals, but yeah, Beterbiev is there. He's not there to box. He's there to hurt him. And Bivol has good distance management, so he's not just moving to the right. He's also to Beterbiev's right. He's also moving backwards at the same time, so it's kind of diagonal. It's not just straight to the right or straight back. It's at an angle. And again, Beterbiev is approaching. Bivol kind of measures and probes with the lead hand, and he doesn't really get a response, so he goes back in. He's really trying to see if Beterbiev is going to respond. He's like, oh, he's not responding. Boom. If you don't want to respond, then he's just going to jab. So that's what he did. Caught him on the forehead a little bit, and Beterbiev was like, okay, I'm gonna respond back. And then here's kind of the nexus of judging this fight. This is like the central kind of diverging pathway. Obviously, Bivol, his jab came in, it was clean. There was nothing in the way to stop his jab from landing. Beterbiev's jab is not clean, but you see that it just rips through the guard. Now, as we go through this round some more and more, you're going to see that that's commonplace, that you have Bivol being super clean, landing shots that just like there's nothing in the way, no guard. He just touches him, gets out of there. And Beterbiev is having to punch through a guard, but he is getting through the guard, and they're super heavy shots. And so we're going to talk more about that as we go through this. We have to talk about goals, which we talked about in the first part, and we'll talk about it again. We got to keep the goals in mind. Nothing impactful is happening in this sequence, but you see the two approaches, right? What do they want? Bivol wants to move, box, score points, break up Beterbiev's rhythm, back him up, and by the way, he's going to use a feint right there. You see him kind of like step forward, lead hand out a little bit. So he wants to disturb Beterbiev's rhythm, slow him down so he can score points. And so the feints are a big deal. And then in contrast, you have Beterbiev, who's there to seek and destroy. And you see him coming in like Mike Tyson. He's there to puncture holes in the guard, create holes or find them in the guard, and hurt Bivol, right? So that's a diverging path. And I think he's going to throw out a jab feint right there. Jab feint, level change, and you see the difference, right? Bivol is trying to get this man off of him and trying to touch him up in the process, and Beterbiev is trying to hunt him down. And no approach is better than the other, but they do have two conflicting goals. Another thing is, first of all, Beterbiev, he wants to get in this level change position a lot. He's going to step into this position so he can launch that catapult over overhand. What I was saying earlier, even though Bivol is moving to the right, he's not moving like in a straight line. He's well, it is a straight line, but he's not moving just to the right. He's also moving backwards, distance control, right, and angles. So that's able to get him out of the way of those attempted bombardments of Beterbiev. Now you can see the difference in their jabs. Beterbiev is just probing, and when you go through and look at it, like this is him just touching. He's just touching, and it just snaps. I mean, it's like a different breed of human. And then in contrast, you have Bivol who's circling out, and he waits, right? He waits for Beterbiev to do his thing, and then wham, super clean counter jab right on the chin, super accurate, right? Bivol, he's so accurate, so he's touching that chin, boom, boom, boom. But again, Beterbiev doesn't really care. But still, clean versus hard, and we'll talk more about that as we progress. But I would give Bivol the edge in this circumstance. If I'm looking at those two jabs, I say Bivol has the better jab in this particular example. Beterbiev knows he just got caught, and so he has to respond, slap around the guard, step in, jab to the body. Now that we're getting out of the earlier rounds, they're starting to get more creative, right? Because they've kind of like felt out the type of direction that they want to go. And so Beterbiev's throwing out his jab, and of course Bivol's throwing out his counter, but it's more of like a touch. It's more of a touch because Bivol, he wants to disturb the rhythm. He wants to upset Beterbiev, and he's going to do that right here with some of his weird hand fighting, smacking the guard, just making him uncomfortable, throwing him off. And Beterbiev is not thrown off. He's there to do damage, right? And so level change, which he really likes that level change position because it lets him load up on big shots, and he throws that left hook, and it mostly misses, but it kind of like grazes the forehead. And even a grazing shot, you can tell Bivol is like, okay, let me back up a little bit. Now Bivol was kind of working on this strategy in the earlier rounds, but the pattern is really starting to become strong in this third round especially. And what you'll notice is Bivol is circling out, and it's purposeful. This is right after that instance where that left foot kind of grazed him on the forehead. And as he's circling out, he waits for Beterbiev to start following him. Once he gets him following, he gets him to be a step behind, and he tries to time him following him, right, and catch him off guard. And he starts doing it with jabs, then it's going to follow up with power punches. And the thing is, even if the jab isn't landing, he can still like just use that lead hand to push him back and reset the action. Then again, you have Beterbiev he does not want to be deterred. And so this is why it's such a lead hand battle, because Beterbiev just lost some territory. He lost some space in the ring, and he's instantly doing everything he can to reclaim it. He's stepping in big off the level change and off the probe, using his lead hand to guide his entry and kind of make Bivol defensive and reactive so that he can reclaim the territory that he just got pushed away from. Now Beterbiev is building up steam. He's gonna throw, he feints right there, steps in, quick jab. Again, you see how the guard just melts, whoop, pushes right through the guard. And then Bivol gets touched by that, and he starts circling out. And then as he's circling out, you know what's coming next. He's waiting for Beterbiev to start following him. He steps into range, and Bivol steps in with the jab that gets caught on the guard of Beterbiev. You can see the strength difference. Beterbiev is a strong man. Beterbiev responds with his own jab that again is going to wham, get through that guard a little bit. It's not a super clean shot though, so it's not super effective. In contrast, Bivol's jab is boom, super effective, super clean, and he also gets his head off the center line. So he trades and counters the jab, and this is a nice counter jab. He gets his head off the center line, hits the chin. So Bivol again is surprising Beterbiev as he's moving, but Beterbiev gets his guard up to kind of deflect that shot. It doesn't really land clean on any part of the head cleanly. And so Beterbiev again has to respond. Both of these men are highly responsive. They're not just going to let somebody work and get away with it. Both of them have to get their get back. And so Beterbiev, he kind of does that little slight duck that he likes to do. It's not as big as the other level change, but as he throws that, Bivol gets underneath, And he likes that position also. Bivol likes to get underneath those shots, and he's going to build off of that as well. He tries to counter with a jab that lands on the chest, so it doesn't really land. And then Beterbiev is pulling back away from the cross, so that doesn't really land. But Bivol keeps the rhythm, jab to the body, and then comes around with the overhand and boom, lands right on the ear and the jaw. Clean shot. And we saw this earlier in a very similar position. Bivol playing with the lead hand, and he sweeps it around, probably to like force the guard, not force the guard, but kind of like psychologically manipulate him to make him pull his guard out. And it kind of works. You see that his guard was like closer to the chin, and then it goes further away from the chin, and then he can step in and follow up with an actual jab that lands on like the side of the forehead. And so he kind of set that up by bringing that guard out. And so Bivol's having a good amount of success kind of upsetting and resetting Beterbiev, just with the constant jabs and the counter jabs and getting underneath shots and the circling and timing them coming in. And then Beterbiev was like, okay, let me reset the action, but he gets caught with a jab as he's trying to do that. And then he steps in again. I think that jab mostly either misses or gets blocked, but this right hand does get through the guard. It punctures through the guard, and that's an effective right hand. Now Beterbiev is going to return back to what he saw success with earlier in this round. He throws the first jab, which does land, hits the forehead right there, but he keeps it going, follows up with the double, and I think he's going to triple it. Let me see. No, he doesn't triple it, but since the rhythm of the double jab is offset, it's surprising Bivol. He's not expecting that second jab to follow up. Now, as this fight progresses, I'm guessing we're going to see more and more Bivol getting his head off the center line in response to the jab, which he just did right there. And he was kind of doing that with his footwork, circling away from that left hand. But if he's standing in front of Bivol, it's more useful for him to use head movement instead of just sitting there. Because I mean, you can even see with this jab, when Beterbiev throws that jab, you can see Bivol's guard just shift out of the way, right? So just standing there in the high guard might not be too effective because the high guard is getting destroyed. So getting out of the way completely is probably more effective. And in this third round, particularly at this point in time, I think there's a change that's starting to occur in the fight dynamic. And again, I said this in my initial reaction to the fight. The lead hand kind of determined the direction of the fight. Bivol to a certain extent kind of sheaths his lead hand, and Beterbiev starts spamming his, right? You can see he's following him along, but as he's doing so, he's using his lead hand to guide him, and as keeping the guard glued there is very effective at just like stopping Bivol from responding and kind of like shutting down his offense. And you can see Bivol's trying to move and reset everything, and Beterbiev is following him, but as he's following him, the lead hand is there, and when the lead hand isn't there, he takes it away for a second. You see Bivol trying to respond and really take over that lead hand battle himself. Again, we look at the two goals contrasting. Bivol is trying to move, he's trying to score, and he's trying to upset Beterbiev's rhythm. Beterbiev is trying to hunt this man down. And the first part, before he gets to hurt him, is the hunting down part. And it's really reinforced and it's really helped if he has the lead hand to get him there. Notice how Beterbiev is probing, and then as he's probing, he's going to step in and level change. Now, I kept saying he likes that position, and he's feinting that position. He's testing the reactiveness of Bivol when he gets to that position. And you can tell that he's testing it. He does it again right there, probing and level change, step in. You can tell that he's testing it because it doesn't take too long for him to actually want to throw from there. He kind of probes to bring the guard to the center, and also to kind of just serve as a feint to set this up. And he level changes, and then he can, it's like a catapult position for him where he can get down low and then come over top with big shots like this this right hook that looks like it definitely gets around the guard. Yeah, it does. So yeah, that you're gonna see him do that more often. He's gonna step in and lower himself. And then we have Bivol doing what he's been doing, which is he starts circling out and he lets Beterbiev follow him. As soon as he does, boom, he throws a big shot to catch him coming in, and it's clean. Again, clean. And there's something I've noticed about elite decision fighters. So, for example, when I did that massive breakdown on Usyk and Tyson Fury, if you're a decision fighter, scoring points is very important, and canceling out moments of success is just as, if not more important. What you'll notice with fighters like Bivol and Usyk is when they get caught, they respond almost always within a short time frame. That means even if their opponent is having success, they're going to steal some of that success. They're going to flatten out that moment, the peak that their opponent is having. And they're going to make it a harder fight to judge. That's why these fights can be so hard to judge, because Bivol isn't just going to let Beterbiev get away with having success. He's going to at least try and stamp out some of those flames. And then he tries to follow up with a right hook right here, but nothing there. I think he just kind of like uses that right hand to push on the guard and make space so he can move out. And we're gonna get another one of those hard shots from Beterbiev, but it's not super clean. Because like I said, Bivol wants to cancel out moments. I don't know if Beterbiev wants to cancel out moments. I think he just wants to cancel his opponent. I think he just wants to destroy them. So whenever he gets hit, I think he's like, no, that's not about to happen. So he steps in with the double jab feint, and you see him kind of lower levels, right? He lowers levels a little bit, and he launches this right hand. And you can see that before it lands on the ear, it bounces off the shoulder and it ricochets into his ear. But even that is enough to just blast through the guard. The density of his bones or whatever is going on with his body is problematic for any normal human in that weight class. So yeah, it bounces off the shoulder, but it lands on the ear. So ricochet. You won't believe what's going to happen next, but Bivol is circling, and surprise, surprise, he catches Beterbiev coming in. And what's interesting is he kind of like, in this position, he's kind of southpaw. And so this could be seen as a jab, but it's coming across his body and it's pushing off of his left leg, which is his back leg. And so this is kind of like a southpaw cross, and he just boom, steals off on Beterbiev as he's coming in. Another clean shot. See how clean these shots are from Bivol? It's a big difference, and we're going to talk about that at the end when I say who I thought won this round. But clean versus hard punches, right? They're trading jabs, but Bivol follows up with a secondary double jab as he's circling out, and he's circling towards Beterbiev's right. So I don't know if you could say that's circling out, but he's circling out of the action, and he level changes himself, and as he's throwing his lead hand, his elbow and forearm is kind of there to serve as a parry of the cross that Beterbiev tried to throw. So that was really smooth, even if it was by accident. They're going to trade jabs again, but Bivol just is getting his head off the center line more. And so Beterbiev's jab is grazing, and Bivol's jab is just touching that chin. Bivol's touching that chin, but it doesn't matter because, again, the adamantium skeleton. So then Bivol keeps his lead hand there, and we looked at the end of the first round. It was very similar, except Beterbiev was the one doing this. Bivol keeps his lead hand there, and so it's measuring. And so when he throws this right hand, again, right on the chin, but Beterbiev simultaneously is coming around with this right hook. You can see his neck turn, but he's a machine. So he's like 40 years old, but it doesn't matter. He's getting his neck turned this way. At the same time, he's following up with the right hook, and that right hook is massive, right on the ear. And so they trade. Both of them get knocked off balance by each other's shots. So that's a pretty even exchange. Beterbiev lands on the ear, Bivol lands on the chin. Hard and clean punches, clean and hard punches. You know the whole thing. We've acknowledged how Bivol, especially in the first round, we saw this as well, is not just, putting up a high guard, but he's also kind of like stopping and ducking underneath shots. And he starts to do that, but he's a little bit too late. So it hits him on the forehead. But if he would have kept his head where it was, it would hit him on the nose instead. And so he starts ducking. But as he's doing that, you see him kind of like duck, and he digs his feet like really deep into the ring so that he can launch this massive overhand counter. And that's, to me, the cleanest shot in the round. Of course, Bivol's just landing the clean shots, but this shot right here. And the thing is, Beterbiev, his right foot is catching up with his left foot because he took such a big jump in when he threw that jab. So inertia is carrying him forward at the same time that Bivol is planting his feet and launching this right hand on the chin. But again, does he care? No, Beterbiev does not care. Beterbiev will get dropped and he just will act like it didn't happen. So these shots, it's kind of discouraging him, but he also wants to like get revenge immediately. So it's kind of not. It's, I don't know. It's hard to understand how his brain works. Beterbiev is gonna respond just a few seconds later. First jab pushes through the guard. It doesn't land super clean though. Second jab, it pushes through it doesn't have to push through the guard. It just gets straight clean through. So that's a cleaner jab. And then again, he keeps that lead hand there to measure. And look at this right hand. Hits the glove and just, look at the glove. Look at the glove. Wait, what the hell? So yeah, imagine fighting that for 12 rounds. He throws the right hand and just, it's like the glove just, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. So yeah, this is what Bivol has to deal with. You can see the impact. Hard versus clean punches. Hard versus clean punches. We're gonna talk more about that. Stick around. We see Beterbiev step in, and he's in that level change position. He feinted with the lead hand, and then he steps into that level change position. I told you that he liked this, so he can come around with them big right hooks. This one again mostly gets caught on the shoulder, and it might like ricochet into the ear a little bit, but it's not a super effective shot. But it's Beterbiev. Everything is effective when he does it. At this point, at the end of the third round, you're seeing that if Bivol is not countering Beterbiev constantly, this man is just going to start working. And so he measuring with the lead hand, right hand gets around the guard, or at least punctures through it enough to cause that impact. And so Bivol is aware of this. He knows that he has to keep working. He wants to like take some breaks maybe, but there's none of that if you're fighting Beterbiev. And so he's trying to, as he's circling out, surprise, surprise, as he's circling out, he waits for Beterbiev to follow him, tries to follow up with a combo. That part misses, and the left hook like partially maybe grazes, but it's not a super effective shot. But Bivol's building off for the combo. He knows that none of that landed, and so he's gonna try and get something out of it. And he throws this right hand that gets over the shoulder a little bit, but Beterbiev is kind of moving with it. You know, he's smooth for a 39-year-old, and so he's kind of getting out of the way of almost all those shots, and some of them partially landing. I do think this left hook might catch him coming up. Might catch him, turn him a little bit, and then Beterbiev is trying to respond. Look at this dude trying to respond with a counter left of his own, and then he partially lands, but he like lands on the trapezius muscle, and it contorts this man. But like, you see what I'm saying? Just he has. I'll stop. But the whole importance of that sequence is that Bivol is trying to counter Beterbiev. He's trying to punish this man and discourage him. And even though that was a failed attempt, because almost all of that missed, a failed attempt is still far more discouraging than no attempt at all. And as soon as they get broken up by the ref, you see Beterbiev just coming in like he's a bull, and Bivol's really trying to be the matador, but this bull has a lot of testosterone and he's not slowing down, and it's going to get very scary very soon. Beterbiev is coming around using that jab and that lead hand, and guess what he does? Just like how we know what Bivol is going to do, we know he's going to do lead hand, level change, so he can land the right hand. And again, we got to talk about that because we're at the end now. I'm realizing that this fight can be judged completely different depending on how you look at shots like this, because technically this right hand is partially blocked, but partially is doing a lot of heavy lifting there, because I mean it kind of blocked, it slows it down I guess, but yeah, it's shots like this. If you look at these types of shots and you give a lot of credence to them, more so than the clean shots to the chin that Bivol was landing, and then if we go like across the entirety of this fight, then you probably think Beterbiev was the fair winner. But if you look at Bivol's clean shots that don't have to go through any guard a lot of times, and that just like land on the perfect parts, they landed on the chin, they're landing on the jaw, stuff like that, then and you rate those greater than these types of punches, then you probably think Bivol is the fair winner. So I think that's probably the crux of why people are divided. First of all, they were landing a similar amount of punches. It's just the types of punches, right? And I'll talk about which ones I prefer in a quick second. It's hard to choose between those two, but regardless, Bivol chose violence. And again, he's ducking underneath and he's planting his feet and he's trying to launch his own big shots. And that kind of, it kind of gets caught up on the shoulder a little bit, but it does land on the ear. It just doesn't move Beterbiev that much, but he does catch him coming in as he's been doing. And then he kind of, you see him whoop, smooth matrix, get out of the way. In my eyes, as I'm watching this fight, this is a Beterbiev round. But this is a highly competitive round, to be fair, so I wouldn't be mad if someone said otherwise. Beterbiev has some heavy ass shots that just remove Bivol's guard from his face. It just erases it, and the impact is just much stronger. That's an advantage that he has. He can put in less effort to do and still do more damage, right? So if I have to choose between an extremely clean punch or an extremely hard one, which is crazy, but I have to say, it's crazy. I have to say hard so many times, and it's getting hard for me. Pause. I choose the hard one every time, but it's for the same reason that my approach to scoring is what it is. And you can go look up my scoring videos where I break down my thoughts on boxing scoring and what I look at and what I don't. And I may put them in the description. Who knows? We'll see how I feel. The whole point of punching someone in the face is to knock them out, right? And the harder the punch, the more probable the knockout is. And so the entire relevance of a clean punch is that it is associated, correlated, and sometimes in a causal way linked to a harder punch. The whole reason of wanting to hit clean is so that you can hit harder, is what I'm trying to say. But the goal is to have more concussive force behind your punch, regardless of how clean it is, right? A better punch, if we have to choose between two punches, one that like partially lands but knocks someone out and one that cleanly lands and doesn't, the one that partially landed and got the end result was better, right? Because it was the harder punch. That's my whole point. So your goal is just to have more concussive force behind your punch, regardless of how clean it is. So, and by that metric, I think Beterbiev wins this round. That's my judgment. On to the next.